Hey guys, we are back with another meta recap. And Victory Road, per usual, has hosted another online tournament. It's going to be the first major tournament for Red Ocean I, really big tournament. There was over 200 people participating. And Calyrex Shadow, Zamazenta won the whole thing. Probably not a shocker if you've been kind of keeping track of the metagame early on, because going to this format, we all knew that CSR ZAMA would be the strongest archetype. And it did win here. And not just that, there were 10 out of 15 CSR in top cut. So this is definitely them on the beat. And today we'll be going over all the trends here, as long as all top cut teams, the usage stats, and I've also recreated every team in this top cut that we will also go over. But yeah, starting off with the usage stats, scrolling a bit down here. You can actually see the restricted parent stats here and also restricted usage stats. I'll go over both of these. So yeah, the highest restricted parent strat was CSR ZAMA, and it had a really great conversion rate, a 26% conversion rate in day 2, and there was a lot on top cut there, like you saw above. Something to notice here are some of the lower ends here, like Lunala didn't really have the greatest conversion. Like Lunala Koraidon was 0-0 in day 2. Lunala Groudon, a team that I personally just used, also 0 in day 2. This is not really like a huge shock because I still consider Groudon like a C tier restricted. There are definitely strong teams for it, but the low accuracy and just the lower power level of maybe the other mons makes it a little bit lower. So not crazy surprising. Lunala Miraidon though, there wasn't many in day 1. There was 2 in day 2 and 1 made top cut, which was really good for it. But again, like Lunala's like a kind of shows that it's still a really good support mon, but Zamazenta just kind of really outclassed it because they do very similar things, but Zama's just having way more usage here. Some of the offensive restricteds have been doing quite well. Like we saw a bunch of Miraidon, Cali Ice Rider in cuts. We saw a lot of Koraidon Cali Shadow in cut as well, very similar to Zamazenta, but more offensive. Categorization, which we talked about a little bit before in our tier lists and such, that it'd be a very potent combo. And there's a lot on day 1, but not many did well in day 2. I think it's also kind of similar to the Groudon thing where Kyogre has been kind of power corrupted in a way, and also the low accuracy has kind of neutered it in a certain degree. But going down, yeah, again, highest usage stats, we already knew all of this. And Shadow Rider on top, this is the mon that beat. Baron at second, this is also probably the mon that beat as well. Probably got put on all your Lubes and Shed Pals. And everything else is pretty straightforward. We already talked about the lower usage stats, but the one thing I want to kind of point out as well is Pagos. Pagos is a mon that I greatly disrespected in my tier list before, and Victory Road has kind of shown that I was a little bit wrong. There's a few in top 8 there, and apparently it pairs really well with Calyrex Shadow, which we'll get into right now. So yeah, we're on the usage stats basically, and I want to talk about, of course, the team that won it all. Lorenzo, he won 2 Victory Road tournaments in a row now, and he won with Calyrex Shadow, Zamazenta. Calyrex Shadow Zamazenta just has the best synergy. You have Body Press for the Incin, you have Wide Guard for the Mirror, a Wide Guard to help you set up Nasty Plot better, along the rest of the team. Double Fake Out, Urshifu, Ogerpon. Very classic combo. We've seen it a lot in Reg G with Redirection Fake Out. Usually it's paired with either Shadow Rider or Tropicos. You can either run both now, or you can just have Shadow Rider Heroes on Zamazenta. Really good support. And yeah, I EV'd it as well. Like the EVs are pretty straightforward. I think you will be max speed for the mirror on both these Pokemon, just so you can win the speed ties realistically, or you outspeed the slower ones. Incin Rocky Helmet is the most classic set you can run. It is so you can always live Urshifu Rapid Strike. Rillaboom, you want to be EV for mostly Draco Meteor from a Rhydon, especially Helping Hand Meteor in terrain with your Grassy is quite nice. Urshifu, Jolly, not Jolly, you want to add at max speed to outspeed Shadow Rider, because if you run any lower, you underspeed Timid Shadow Rider, so it's very important to go max speed admin at minimum with Scarf. And Ogerpon, I gave it 92 attack just to do a lot of damage. This kills Indeedee when you Terra with the Ivy Cudgel. Enough speed for Smeargle, and the rest in bulk just for general investment. I believe you also live Terra Search Tracks with this one as well. So yeah, EVs are pretty straightforward, and I kind of already explained what makes the team so good. It's just that Double Fake Out is just so good in every format. Like, it's had success in Reg G with Tropicos and other CSR comps, and it's going to stay that way in Reg G because you even have more support now. Like, Zamazenta being add-on here is just more Incin hate and more Pagos hate. Actually, Pagos is a big one. CSR was really bad versus Pagos and G, but with your own Zamazenta and your own Urshifu, double fighting plus double fake out, you basically shut down every CSR counter, and this allows this mon to really snowball. So it's a very strong combo, and for the rest of the format, this is the team to beat. It just has all the tools. Next, this is actually kind of a big surprise. Dozo. I mean, Dozo is always a mon I think that's always disrespected early format, but I think for like the very first tournament, I didn't expect it to get at least second. But Pearl proved me wrong here with this very crazy Dozo Kigiri team. Dozo, Tatsu, Chiyu, Miraidon, Calyrex Shadow, Sneasler. We saw the AV Miraidon stuff on Dozo before. That did well. It won a Mexico regional. And then with Calyrex Shadow, we've also seen this before with usually Weezing and Toxic Spikes. But instead, this is paired to Sneasler, which makes a lot of sense in own way because Weezing is weak to Zamazenta. Sneasler hits Zamazenta for super effective, and also still can spread poison with Toxic Spikes, which I find really interesting. And it's also a really good Miraidon partner because you can Bird and Electric Seed. So it's sort of a like kind of a rogue compression spot where Weezing, yes, turn off terrain is nice, but when you run a Miraidon, you rather have something that synergizes more with it, so you have Sneasler for that reason, and it still gives you the same poison synergy. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. We've seen these combos before, and a lot of Dozo builds you usually see poison and a bunch of offensive sweepers with the really bulky Dozo to rack up poison after you get spikes up. So very, very classic team, and not surprised it did like super well for a Dozo comp. Like Dozo itself beats Zamazenta really well, and the Dozo weaknesses is usually Among Us, which is why you have Chiyu and the Calyrex Shadow here to beat it. Calyrex Shadow, Chiyu is just really strong offensive pairing. Like there's a lot of strong special attackers on this team that can abuse Chiyu. I think Chiyu is actually really underrated right now. I'm kind of surprised there wasn't a lot more in Top Cut because Chiyu beats the top two restricteds with CSR and Zama with Fire and Dark stab. Going over the EVs real quick, I mean, Standard Scarf, you get max speed. Miraidon AV is interesting. On a team like this, I don't think you can really go choice picks because your speed control is quite limited. Pearl was saying that AV was really nice at beating other Miraidon or taking hits better. So you can kind of trade damage and you can win with back Dozo or back CSR. Speed is for Ogre Pawn. Special attack is just to hit a bump, and the rest in bulk because you want to be bulky yourself S. Tatsu, Focus Sash, not much to talk about. The Dozo, I just made it super bulky. This is the Justin Knox one, that top 16 worlds. I don't see why this wouldn't work with your other Dozos, just because defense boosting order out body press, you want to be impish, so does body press hit harder, and so you can shrug off any physical hit. Calyrex Shadow, if you're going Life Orb, you want to be max speed, you want to be max attack, basically, and force, just for whatever. You hit as hard as possible. Terror Dark is really good for the mirror, which I find quite nice here. Sneasler, last Pokemon here. EVs could be whatever. I feel like you can also go Adamant. The only reason why I made it Jolly, because I think this team's a little bit weak to Tailwind Miraidon. So with Jolly Sneasler, you can actually outspeed Modest Miraidon and Tailwind. So I think that's like a really cool thing you can try with Jolly. Next, we have Miraidon Lunala. These are not my EVs because Seawolf Mikes, who top forward with the team, posted it. So here is EVs. So we're just going to talk about the team itself instead. I actually think Miraidon Lunala is a very strong combo. I actually think it might be more consistent than Miraidon Ice Rider. I think Miraidon Ice Rider is the one that most people said would be the best one, but Lunala outplays that combo. And I think Lunala just pairs better with Miraidon because you have the access to Wyguard and also Trick Room still. So you still have the Terram aspect that Miraidon teams usually have. But Wyguard protecting Miraidon from opposing Miraidon D-Gleam and Glacial Lens and Astral is really, really nice for it. Lunala can still not get faked out, so I mean, you don't have Fergraph, which is kind of annoying, but not being able to get faked out is quite nice, so you can still support the team, right? And it's also a really strong pairing with Chiyu. Again, Beads of Ruin supports both of these guys. You can also trick them for Iron Hands, and you also are immune to Body Press, which is really good for it. And this one's actually interesting, Terra Water. I think that most Lunala you see be Terra Fairy, but I kind of like the Terra Water here, so you're not pinned by Zacian, because Zacian would pin Miraidon if you're Terra Fairy, which you are here, and you also have Ice Ride, you're also weak to Zacian, which is kind of annoying. So I like the not weakness here, and you also have Chiyu to threaten Zacian more, which Miraidon doesn't like. So a lot of ways to kind of, I guess, counter your weaknesses that Miraidon would normally have with the support of Lunala and Chiyu here. Urshifu and Hands are pretty straightforward Maraudon teams. Hands is good for trigger mode and also abusing terrain, and Urshifu is a really great tailwind abuser. So not much more to talk about here. Really well-rounded Maraudon team. I think there's a lot of ways you can run Maraudon Lunala. I've seen comps of Ursaluna as well, but I think this is probably a good starting point and the best performing one so far, so feel free to try it. Next, we have another CSR ZAMA comp. This one is a bit different because they have Pelipper Rain. The difference between this and Lorenzo's is Lorenzo had Rillaboom and he also had Heart Flame instead of like Heart Flame here and Rillaboom here. So with the Rain here, you're more supporting the Urshifu core here. I'm guessing you're also better versus Koraidon, because I think CSR ZAMA does struggle versus fire types like Chiyu, and Koraidon in general hits both, right? Koraidon can KO Zamazenta, and you can like Icy Wind, maybe Flare Blitz, the Calyrex Shadow pair of one that Fluttermane or something. So with Pelipper, you're allowed to neuter the fire damage. You have Wyguard that block Icy Wind, Astral Glacial, which is really nice. And you have Amoonguss here to soak up hits as well, which is a bit more bulkier in a Heart Flame. Heart Flame makes more sense if you have the Rillaboom Glacier Glide spam, but Amoonguss is a much more better defensive pivot that also really appreciates Rain. Kind of similar to a lot of the Rain Zamazenta comps we've seen before in RG, with Pelipper, Amoonguss, Zamazenta, usually saw like Raging Bolt and such, but you can't really fit Raging Bolt in this team. Maybe over Incin, but Incin's like extremely good in this format right now because of Fake Out Surging. For that combo here, you resist Astral Barrage, and there's a lot of Pokemon getting intimidated right now, so Incin's still really, really good. EVs again are pretty straightforward. You're going to see a lot of the same EVs with Calyrex Shadow and Zama. Not much to really talk about that. Max speed for mirrors. Incin AB is a bit of a different set, so I just paid Adamant because you already have the bulk from Intimidate and Soulfest, so not much to really give into that room here. Amoonguss here can take like ISO Crash. You have you can underspeed, min speed Ice Rider with 27 IV. Pelipper Life Orb. If you run Timid Max, you can outspeed most Rillaboom and max speed Incin. You can hail them with Water Ball or Hurricane. Urshifu here, this is going to be the standard Mystic Water set. I'm happy with like every other team here basically because you want to outspeed Smeargle. I think Smeargle is a Pokemon that's going to be very common in Reg G. Or not Reg G. It was sort of common in Reg G, but it's going to be more common in Reg I because of the utility it gives for your restricted. So 140 outspeeds that by 1. You hit 196 to KO Chenpao, and then this one lives sort of Ruin Body Press most times, and also has a good chance of, or a decent role at taking Life or Barrage from Calyrex Shadow. Next in top 8, we have CSR ZACIAN. I think it's another great combo with CSR because ZACIAN can kill Miraidon for it, and it's just a lot faster than Zamazenta. They have different roles because, you know, again, Zamazenta supports the team more of Wyguard, while ZACIAN is just a stronger attacker with Play Rough and Behemoth Blade, right? You always pin the Miraidon if they Terra Fairy, you Behemoth Blade. If you don't Terra, you kill it, Play Rough, which is really nice because Miraidon threatens your Torrent Ursh mode, which this team also has here. The main thing about a Calyrex Shadow is, of course, you can go Focus Sash again, but this one's in Prison. So in Prison, you can lock down every Shadow Rider right now because they're all Astral Barrage Psychic. So if you do win the Speed Tie in Prison first, they can't do anything. I think that this can sometimes be inconsistent because you have to win the Speed Tie anyways, so that's why you have Tailwind Tornadus for that reason. Another thing you can also try is maybe run Terra Normal, so you can be immune to Barrage and then in Prison guaranteed. But it's still sort of an awkward scenario, and I think it's very situational, but if you do pull it off, it's, of course, in the mirror. Urshifu, here's really well torn. This is also the same Mystic Water set I've been showing earlier. Really good for Smeargle, because, again, like, Smeargle is sort of annoying for a Shadow Rider, so being able to taunt it first and move first. Like, you have a lot of mons can outpace it here. Zacian, Ursh, Okerpon, all just kind of destroy Smeargle in their own way. Rillaboom, one thing to know about this one is it's knockoff. Knockoff is really good for the mirror as well. For like, I think this team is really teched out for the mirror, right? You've imprisoned Shadow Rider, you've knockoff Rilla, you have Torn for preventing speed ties and such. You also have Mystic Water Ursh with Terra Water can kill Shadow Rider for Focus Sash. So you have a lot of ways to kind of beat mirror Shadow Rider, which I really do like on a Tailwind team like this. And yeah, I think this is a pretty well built team. EVs are again pretty straightforward. You want your Zacian outspeeding Timid Miraidon. You already know CSR can be fast. Tornadus, I made this one bold and 29 IVs in speed actually because you can have slow Rain Dance versus Sunny Day teams. Because I think a team like this can actually be kind of Chiyu weak, maybe Sunny Day Chiyu. So having that slow Rain Dance feels quite nice to me. Rillaboom can live Helping Hand Draco in grassy terrain from Miraidon. And Okarpon here can honestly be whatever you want. This is gonna be the most common Okarpon spread, right? Like, of course, you're sturdy, you're max bulk, max speed, right? No bulk. That makes more sense, right? The only reason why you want to run bulk is if you want to live opposing Mystic Water Surging from Urshifu. So you have an option to live it. Like, I believe if you go 52 defense and 12 HP, you should always live Surging from the standard Ursh. So that is an option you can go for. But max is also fine. Next, we have Marco Silva's CSR Pagos team. So contact us with it earlier in the user stats that I was wrong about Pagos. I was very wrong about Pagos. Pagos definitely proved me wrong. My main complaint about Pagos was that there's so many restrictions that rely on terrain and their abilities. So the ability of Pagos is kind of useless to a degree for your team, right? But it's still really good with CSR because CSR doesn't care about its ability. And shutting down other abilities are also kind of nice, because I guess that's one thing kind of underlooked. A lot of the top restrictions right now for line abilities, Koraidon, and Miraidon mainly. So shutting down the weather and terrain's really good. So it allows your CSR to kind of enables that more. And that's actually really nice. So you can like turn off sun, you can have your Urshifu again start hitting it quite nice in like versus sun teams, or you can shut down rain. So then the opposing Urshifu doesn't run over your whole team, right? So it's still very strong. I think I was maybe just coping away because, man, a metagame with CM Pagos again is kind of annoying. I'm not gonna lie. This team is really obnoxious to play against. Very similar to the double fake out Pagos teams we see before Reg G, but this time on they slapped on a Calyrex Shadow, which makes a lot of sense too, because Calyrex Shadow can beat the fighting types that Chopgos is really weak to. I still think Zamazenta teams can be a little bit problematic, but you do have Scarf Ursh, Incin, and Follow Me to kind of support your Pagos and CSR, so it might not be the worst thing ever. But yeah, EVs are pretty straightforward. This one's not Focus Sash, so with the Life Orb set, I gave it some bulk and more optimized for Life Orb Recall, and you still want to be max speed for the mirrors. Like, this is always been the case. Pagos, I'm not really so sure how to EV it right now because this is the standard Reg G Bold set. A lot of them were Bold to live like Urshifu Close Combat. I think if you're running Earth Power, you can also go Modest. It's going to be kind of a preference thing to see how much damage you want to do, right? I mean, the same Rillaboom set you're always going to see, basically. Very bulky. Most of them kind of go Lost but Death. You can even go Impish if you want to live stuff like Glacial Lance, but this is my go-to Rillaboom set. Incin, you go Impish for Urshifu. Again, these are your standard Rocky Helmet set. You want to live Surging Strikes most times with Rocky Helmet Incin. Okarpon, same Okarpon spread I showed earlier with Lorenzo's team. I think that if you don't have speed control and you just want Okarpon to do a job of either redirect or damage, this kind of does it all in one. And Scarf Ursh is Scarf Ursh. The 7th place team here in top 8 is a CSR KORAI team. It's the first one we have here. CSR Life Orb Terra Ghost is a bit of a new thing. Usually we see Focus Sash, but the Focus Sash is on Ditto here, which makes a lot of sense, right? So if Sash is not on Ditto, it's usually on either Calyrex Shadow or Chiyu, but the Chiyu is Choice Scarf, and Calyrex Shadow is just Life Orb. And I think with Tailwind makes sense, just Tailwind, so you outside the mirror, and you also have Chiyu for the mirror as well, and Terra Ghost Life Orb. With Beads of Ruin, I'm assuming gets a lot of KOs. This is a really strong Pokemon. You also have Brute Bonnet for the mirror, so like Double Dark, your own CSR, and Ditto, the copy other CSR. There's a lot of ways to kind of like maybe not auto in the mirror, but gives you a lot of tools into it, which is really nice. Brute Bonnet's a really nice Pokemon, I think, recently because it pairs really well with Sun. Jamie Boyd kind of showed why it was really strong. We top from Stockholm. I just use the same set here because it always looks like Glacial Lance. It's a really good answer to physical Pokemon such as Ice Rider, which these fast Tailwind teams would often struggle versus. And then you not only just take Glacial, you take it even more with that Photosynthesis, right? Photosynthesis with a bold nature. I'm pretty sure you can take a Body Press from Zamazenta, so you can Spore it back. Really good support for a very offensive team. Again, like Koraidon, I think that nowadays, because Miraidon and Koraidon are so popular right now, that going max speed is probably an option. I'm kind of against Jolly because with Clear Amulet, you do significantly less than Life Orb damage, so I think you want to go Adamant. And after Flame Charge anyways, you are faster than other stuff in the mirror, so I think that this is a fine spread. Once it comes to the last Pokemon, I think this makes a lot of sense. Tailwind enable you in the mirror, right? Because CSRs can be super popular. You won't be the fastest in the field, and it also allows you to compete with other Tailwind teams like Tailwind or Miraidon. But yeah, this is a very cool take, and probably my favorite team in top 8 so far. It's a very cool take. Every other team has been kind of standard looking, so it was nice to see Brute Bonnet in top 8 here. Next is Miraidon Grimmsnarl Volcarona team, very similar to Joseph Ugarte's Reg G team. The only difference is they swapped on a Zamazenta over the Urshifu, which makes sense. You replace one fighting type for another, and again, you also have that Wide Guard support. Similarly enough, we saw that Lunala team with Miraidon top 4. Zamazenta does a pretty similar thing. You support the Miraidon a lot here. You also support the Volcarona and Iron Hands a bit more, just blocking stuff for it. Also, Zamazenta behind screens is almost unkillable, which is really good. And I really do like that aspect. The only thing I don't really like about pairing Miraidon and Zamazenta is you have a much weaker ground weakness. But it seems like Groudon and Landorus didn't really convert well in this tournament. So I feel like that's totally fine. And also, again, Groudon, you have Wide Guard for it anyways, but sometimes they take high horsepower. So it could be a little bit annoying because you actually have no ground switching at all, assuming that Zamazenta isn't on the field. But with screens and Terra, it's probably not a big worry. That's my only concern, though. Grimmsnarl, I think this guy got buffed in a restricted format just because you are good versus both Callies and screens allows you to outbulk most things. Same as Ditto. There's also another Pokemon that I touched a little bit back on the KORAI team, but Ditto is really good for in double restricted formats because there's so many Pokemon you want to copy. Imagine having 3 restricted at once, right? Allowing yourself to copy opposing CSR so you can copy their boosts is really good. It's also really good at copying Zamazenta. So Dauntless Shield, and you only get +1, right? But if Ditto comes in the field, you get +2 from it, so even stronger body presses with the Ditto. So I think that's a really, really cool combo. And yeah, I mean, there's not really a whole lot to talk about this team. I think it just has a lot of good stuff from the Reg G team that Joe had, but kind of boosted to next level with this extra support piece. So yeah, this is a very, very strong team. Next, in top 16, on paper, this looks like a very standard CSR balanced team, but there's a Chople Incin, which I find really interesting. So with Chople Berry, you always live body pressure Zamazenta, which is really cool. I think that if you're at this point, you probably also want EV for Surging, just so you can whisk basically any physical Pokemon. So I use the same Rocky Helmet spread, but it's really cool just living Chople Berry. The only issue is, I guess, if they have CSR paired, because you know the As one has Unnerve, so it turns out the berry. But if it's just Zamazenta in the field and you're able to wisp it, it's a really good way to neuter it completely. Not so sure if it's the most consistent tech ever, but it did make top 16 for a reason, so I'll give them that. The rest of the team is actually pretty boring. I mean, it's mostly just kind of different tech pieces. It's this same CSR Zama, which we always see, same Rilla, same Mystic Water Ursh, different Incin, which is cool, and a sort of different Tornadus. This one is Rocky Helmet instead of Culver Cloak, which also makes sense. A lot of ways to kind of just deter Urshifu, right? Which is really nice for it, but that's really it. It's very standard CSR comp, and there's not really much to talk about. Next we have Pagos Koraidon, which is interesting. I think this is one of the weirder ones. Like, okay, now I know Pagos is good, but I think turning off your own sun is awkward with Koraidon. Like, this is not a ability you want to turn off mostly, especially if you have them paired at the same time in the field. But Koraidon is a Pokemon that forces a lot of terrors. I think the idea behind this is you can clean up early. I mean, yes, I mean you can dish a lot of damage out early with Flutter Koraidon and clean up with Pagos in endgame, so you don't really care about Sun. So maybe Koraidon KO itself with its own Life Orb and Recoil. Then you get in Pagos. You can maybe pick up a Terra Water Pokemon or Terra Fire Pokemon, a Terra for the Koraidon, and then use one with Starstorm, right? I think that's probably the general idea behind it. And if you're not doing that route, you also have the standard Fake Out game. It's double restricted, but you don't always have to bring both restricted in the game. Depends on what you're facing, right? So double Fake Out Pagos Flutter or Follow Me is a good way of supporting it. But actually, the main thing I think about now of why you would have Koraidon on the Pagos team is to threaten Zamazenta. Zamazenta is a pretty big problem for Pagos, so Koraidon is actually fairly good into it. So maybe that's why it's there. But I feel like Urshifu would also work there, like we saw at Marco's team. Marco paired Pagos with CSR Pagos with its own Scarfurge, so it makes me wonder if that version's better than this one. But I kind of get the theory, but I do think CSR is probably a better partner for Pagos. But definitely a unique take on this team, and yeah, I guess that we expect to see more Pagos in the future. Next in top cut, we have MIRAI and Ice Rider. Um, Again, like this is like the classic combo we talked about earlier. It's proven good now here. Maybe not as good as the Lunala one we saw in top cut, but I still think it's strong even if it is Zacian weak. This team has a lot of ways to deal with Zacian because you have Scarf, Urshin, and Rain can KO it. You also have the Terrifier Ice Rider. I think the way you beat Zacian with this kind of team is Trick Room. The thing I really like about this team is the overall synergy for other matchups because Miraidon and Tauros is weak to ground types. You have the Rain mode and Ice Rider really check that. And the Rain also really supports the Ice Rider weaknesses, such as Koraidon Sun. So you've Rain to shut down the Sun here, you also have Miraidon to check Koraidon, which I find really nice. A team like this also might struggle versus Zamazenta because you don't have any natural body press switch-ins really besides Pelipper, which kind of gets doubled up really easily on. But I mean, the team did make top cut, and I think that a lot of pieces here do make sense. But I do see some glaring weaknesses that could maybe be fixed in the future. But overall, a pretty strong comp for Miraidon and Ice Rider. I would say it covers most of the fields I would expect for a comp like this. I think that if you don't have Pranks or Tailwind, Timid Miraidon's the way to go, just for mirrors. Scarfish, not much to really say about that. I don't think Tailwind Pelipper is really enough ways to have consistent Tailwind, right? It's just kind of too slow to set up, in my opinion. And yeah, the rest of the spreads are whatever, right? Ice Rider, I didn't want to make it too fast because you don't have crazy fast Tailwind. So I made it 85 here. So this outspeeds most Ice Rider in general, and you can take advantage of Tailwind when you can have it. But for the most part, I think that you don't want to drop too much bulk because Ice Rider is a really important bulky piece on this kind of team. You want to be out bulking most things of Ice Rider. And yeah, standard hand, standard Ogerpon, not really much to talk about. Next here is another CSR Koraidon team. This is actually from Bezad, your Vancouver regional champion. So cool to see him have another really strong restricted results. Yeah, I mean, not really much to talk about this team, I feel, besides maybe the Smeargle. We saw Koraidon CSR earlier on a more Tailwind team, but I think this is probably the more traditional route I expect a team like this because, again, CSR double fake out, we already know why it's good. But this one has Smeargle, which I think is really strong in the current format because of its move kit of Spore. Fast Spore is really good, especially with Moody. If this guy ever gets a Moody boost with speed, you can basically shake your opponent's hand because they're going to support your whole team if you don't have any great speed control. It's really annoying. Wyguard allows you to support Shadow Rider more in the mirror, and Koraidon from opposing Shadow Rider and Ice Rider. Spiky Shield I think is really smart because Protect on Smeargle is really underrated. Because this mon's such a big threat, with Spore, most people try to double down on it. With Spiky Shield, you can always protect it, and you already have double fake out here anyway, so I think triple fake out's a little redundant. So it's a really strong balance team that covers, I think, a lot of the Shadow Rider and Chiron's weaknesses. And I think it's a team that can really snowball if you get the right Moody boosters and the right calls with the double fake out. Next is CSR Pagos again. This version is a little bit different, mainly with the Wisp Shadow Rider. I think it's the first Wisp Shadow Rider. We've seen a lot of Encore, mostly Encore and Imprison so far. So Wisp is really nice at just shutting down Zamazenta. This was actually also disable. So Wisp disable, no Psychic, so really supportive set. I guess disable is really nice at shutting down Wyguard. So you can Wisp the Zamazenta is one thing, but if you can disable Zama, then they can't Wyguard in front of you, or you can even disable Body Press for your Chople Ghost to set up really nice. So really cool Shadow Rider set here on a very standard comp though. This is very similar to the Marco Silva team. The only difference is the different Ogerpon form. It's literally just a different Ogerpon form. It's literally the same Ursh set as well. So this is probably another one of the teams to beat as well, of either CSR ZAMA or CSR PAGOS. Very similar builds that have a lot of results here on top cut. And yeah, very similar EVs, not really much to talk about. These I'm basically reusing the EVs because they all work for these kind of teams. Not really much to say. And the last CSR Pagos, another one, right? This one's a bit cooler because of the Fake Tears Flutter. I really do like the Fake Tears Flutter here. There's no Urshifu on this team, which I'm not so sure is correct, but with Fake Tears, it allows you to have a more special unity oriented team, right? Like Fake Tears plus Astral Barrage with Terra Ghost can KO a lot of things in the format, right? And with Pagos, if you maybe have one Calm Mind and Fake Tears, you can KO things as well, or if you can't afford getting Calm Mind off, Fake Tears is your way to set up, right? You basically got that free choice specs, and you KO something, which is really nice. There's no Icy one on this flutter, which I find really interesting, but I guess you can't afford Icy Wind when you want all the other support moves, especially with Taunt to shut down setup, and then Fake Tears just for damage, right? So that makes a lot of sense. Because there's no Icy Wind, I think going faster flutter is quite nice. So with Thunder Wave, you can maybe Thunder Wave, Urshifu, and Tailwind. With 200 speed, you outspeed Adamant, Urshifu, and Tailwind. So after T-Wave, everything else needs to outspeed it, mainly Calyrex Shadow and Ogerpon here, right? I think on a team like this, Ogerpon here could also be debatably being the bulky Ogerpon that can live Mystic Water Surging. But I think this is a go-to spread that you can go with, and everything else is basically straightforward. But yeah, I don't know if the Urshifu version is the best version. I mean, Marco did have the higher placement with it, but Flutterbrain does provide better speed control on a team because the only other speed control you had on the Scarf Ursh team was the Scarf Ursh itself, right? That was the fastest thing in the field. But Flutter is a more supportive piece on the team, which really supports your setup sweepers here. And the last team here is Miraidon Ice Rider, but with Iron Bundle. I think there's a very straightforward Miraidon Ice Rider team for the most part besides the bundle. I think we saw Urshifu's last piece in a different Ogerpon form earlier. But yeah, with bundle, I think you can afford to run. This is modest. Modest because Icy Wind support here, and you also have Trick Room in case you don't go timid, right? You can boost that for mirrors as well. I know I mentioned that if you didn't have Tailwind and speed control that you want to go timid, but your speed control is right here. One didn't know that this one's Hydro Pump. It's probably hit Incin. I also think you can run Encore to shut down setup with all the Tropicals on the field right now. I think Encore might be more valuable than Hydro Pump just to lock into Calm Mind's really nice. But yeah, for the most part, this is just standard Ice Rider. I think that when most people were kind of recreating Miraidon Ice Rider, these 5 are always here, right? And they usually just replaced the Urshifu, and they kept the Whipscott here. But yeah, bundle makes a lot of sense here too, just for that speed control, which I think that a team like this always appreciates. And yeah, that's gonna be all the teams for our top cut here. Everything else here you can view on the Victory Road website, which I'll also have pinned in the description. Not going to really go over these a whole lot, but I guess we can talk over some of the teams. I think there are some interesting teams to talk about here. Like there's an Iron Treads team here that's very similar to the Gotti team that made finals at EYC. Lunala get Miraidon. We talked about this pairing earlier. There's only 2 that made day 2. One barely without cut, and this one's a little bit different with a Rocky Helmet set. I think Rocky Helmet set's actually really cool because this one decided to keep the seed for Graph, and Lunala is so bulky that you can take any hit anyways, so if any physical hit hits it, it's just taking way more damage it should, and you're just trading better Rocky Helmet. Really good versus Urshifu in particular, which I find really, really nice. Other interesting teams that I found were, I guess there's a Frostmoth here. That's kind of crazy. Frostmoth here, actually my friend lost to him. He couldn't beat it because Frostmoth can take a lot of hits. I think you can actually live Electric Drift in terrain because you have Ice Scales. Ice Scales gives you the plus of death boost. And you also have Quiver Dance, so you can take any more Miraidon hits, and Wide Guard. So it's a mod that's really funny in the mirror. A bit weak to like the Ogerpon forms, but for Miraidon itself, it does wall completely, which is kind of funny. You also just wall Kali Ice. So, really cool set. I actually think unique Wide Guard mons can still do well in this format, kind of similar in Reg G. But you can pair it with more support with either Frostmoth, Smeargle, any other crazy Wide Guard mon you can throw on here and probably do well with it. And yeah, that's really it. Every other team in here is basically just standard double fake out, which we all have seen. Maybe standard Ice Rider Miraidon comps we talked about that didn't really make it as far. And yeah, I mean, right now the meta I think it's sort of centralized around the CSR comps with double fake outs. That's definitely the team to beat. And I still think that innovation will happen, right? It's the early stages of Recursion Eye, so everyone's kind of using the proven good cores or cores that have worked best in the past, like we've seen in Top Cut. But I think as the weeks come on before our upcoming regionals, we will see some more metagame development, and I'll make sure to cover that next time then. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today's video. Do you agree with some of my metagame takes, and what do you guys think or Regulation I metagame will be going in the future? Really curious to see how this format progress, and I'm really hoping that we'll see some more big developments very, very soon. But yeah, that's gonna be for today, guys. and I'll catch you all next video. Goodbye.